Folks on the left, none too pleased about the presidential renaming of the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts here in the nation's capital. Let's bring in political commentator Adrian Gray and the host of the Restoring America podcast, Grace Riley. All right, Grace, let me begin with you. Boy, they are really up in arms over this. I would think that it wouldn't be as big of a deal, but then again, I guess if you look at the other side of the thing, if they named it the Obama Kennedy Center, maybe people on the right would have been upset. Your thoughts?
Yeah, you know, Trump has raised hundreds of millions of dollars to restore and save this institution, and it seems that it took that poke at the bear signature Trump move to wake the Kennedys up about it after all of these years. And of course, whether you agree with Trump or not on this move, it certainly has nothing to do with the desecration or you know, erasing of democracy like that man and D.C. resident explained. I mean, that's obviously a stretch. It has nothing to do with that. But we'll see what happens with this.
Hey, G, what do you think? I mean, frankly, let's be honest about it. They put a lot of work into this. They feel very strongly about this. Your thoughts about the renaming of the building not terribly far from here?
Listen, with President Trump, we are reclaiming culture again. So what he is doing with the Kennedy Center, people have ignored for decades, okay? He is the pop culture president. He came in and he said, look, I am passionate about the arts and I'm going to improve this place. This is now a bipartisan move. So save me the sob story, okay? I mean, he is a fierce defender of the arts. He loves music. I'm a big fan of this.
Yeah,
I absolutely love it.
I think a lot of people actually are a big fan of this. Let me get your take while I have a few moments on the 1776. Have you heard about this? The military members getting a bonus for $1,776 by the president. This is Whoopi Goldberg talking about it with Alyssa Griffin on The View. Get your reaction after this little bit of sound.
The one thing I'll give him credit on is this bonuses to troops. He's giving him basically $1,700.
Let's see if they get the.
Well,
I want to see them get
Where's the money coming from?
What he's doing is he's thinking, if I make sure that the soldiers have what they need, they'll back me in what I want.
That seems a bit cynical to me in terms of a take. Adrian, what do you think?
Absolutely. Look, imagine having this worldview, Kevin, where you're always manipulating everything to be so TDS ridden, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, there's no what's in it for us when it comes to our men and women in uniform. And it's the same for President Trump. He's doing this because he respects our men and women in military, and he wants to give them a bonus. There's no what is in it for him.
I got to get your take on this, Grace. What do you make of it? Listen, if I'm a military family getting nearly $2 grand right before the holiday season, yeah, that makes me like the president even more.
Yeah, and of course, that's how Americans feel. What she misses in taking this position of putting her hatred for Trump above what is something that is objectively good for the men and women who serve and protect our country is that people would actually respect and listen to her more if she actually was fair and acknowledged just a net good here. And of course she misses that Trump is not running again and he already has the votes of the military members, so he does not need that in any way. He's just doing something that's nice, objectively good, and what he should do, and again, that Americans support and are excited about.
Meantime, 15 seconds each. I'm going to play a little sound. This is Harry Enton from over at another network talking about just how low the Democrats are in the eyes of the public. Listen.
Democrats in the minds of the American public are lower than the Dead Sea. What are we talking about here? Well, let's take a look. The net approval rating for Democrats in Congress, you said it, Kate Baldwin, the lowest ever. Look at this. Overall, they are 55 points underwater. Their approval rating is south of 20%. It's even worse when you look at independents. Look at this, negative 61 points. That means that their approval rating is 61 points lower than their disapproval rating.
Okay, that's about as low, well, maybe not as low as you can go, but pretty doggone close. Adrian, what do you make of the news that the Dems are lower than a caterpillar's belly?
Listen, what do you expect when they worship at the altar of anything anti-Trump? Like, that is their religion, okay? So there's no message here other than the fact that we see what happens to these blue cities when they take over, and their platform is supporting illegal aliens, okay? DEI, defunding the police. It goes on. And what kind of party is that? Not anything that's going to be successful, nothing that anybody in the country wants to be a part of.
Here's the thing, though, Grace. A lot of people will say they had some success in those recent elections. Maybe it's not all bad. Do you see how they would have that view?
Yeah, you know, it's pretty crazy. I mean, welcome to the club to all of the Democrats who are disapproving of the party. And those were a lot of really great points. Of course, the Democrats are on the wrong side of every issue, whether it comes to Trump's immigration policies, trying to stop crime across the country, the war on drugs, and more. I mean, it's pretty insane. But look at this. We have finally some unity on the left and the right when it comes to disapproval of the Democrats.
Well, who knew we would end up with that? Grace and Adrian, thank you both for joining me tonight, and have a great weekend.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.